how do I reconnect? And then the second is, how do I know I have been successful in reconnecting? I think that's kind of the two-part question. First, how do I reconnect? I think there's a huge shift that we need to make, okay? I think many of us have the wrong focus. Now listen carefully.
Okay.
I think many of us, when it comes to worship, our focus is on how I feel, okay? My focus is on how does it feel for me? What's my experience? Am I reaching a spiritual high? Am I feeling it? You know, it's like all about how I feel. That's the wrong focus. It is actually not about you. It is actually not about me. It's about God. Now, that's like a completely different paradigm. It's not about how we feel. It's about what Allah deserves from us. So let me ask you this question. Imagine that when you start praying, or maybe one Ramadan, you started praying and you were feeling an incredible high. You know, you were feeling all the verses, you were really feeling that Ramadan, you were in a spiritual. Every time you prayed, you felt higher and higher and higher. Now, what happens when all of a sudden you don't feel that high anymore? You don't feel your prayer anymore. You're not having that feeling anymore. So what now? Do you stop praying? Do you stop praying? So this is the problem. Imagine that you're reading Quran and you're just getting such a high from it. You're just like, it's making you cry. It's really touching you. And then all of a sudden, it's not giving you that high anymore. Do you stop reading Quran? And this is exactly the problem, is that I think so many of us are actually attached to the spiritual highs. We're attached to how it makes me feel. Right. But if you actually go back and you look at the reward itself, the reward is not necessarily dependent on how it makes you feel. It's only dependent on, did we do it right and did Allah accept? So this is very important. Our focus needs to shift from how does it make me feel to, am I doing it right and is Allah accepting? And so how do we do it right? Well, we have to look at the Sunnah. We have to look at the Quran and the Sunnah to make sure we're doing it right when it comes to ibadah. And the question then becomes only, is Allah accepting? Whether or not I'm feeling it, whether or not it makes me have a spiritual high. As a consequence and a gift of ibadah, you will feel good. But you cannot be worshiping the spiritual high. And whether or not you have it, it determines whether or not you're going to continue. So our shift has to, the focus has to shift from what I feel to, am I doing it right and is Allah accepting? And when we shift that way, we will continue to do what is asked of us, whether or not we feel it, whether or not we like it, whether or not it's making me feel this or that.
Okay.
And then finally, the question of how do I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is accepted? Well, first and foremost, we need to have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to have a positive opinion of Allah. We need to do our best and then have hope that it is accepted. But one sign that our actions are accepted, that our worship is accepted, is the fact that we're continuing to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is, in fact, the greatest gift. There's this saying that the best karama is istiqama. The best, spiritual gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ability to continue steadfast in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you find that you are able to be consistent in the ibadah, in your ubudiyyah, then that's a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has accepted you and is pleased with you, because that's the greatest honor, is to be abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.